welcome back to the post game of the first official Cowboys preseason game. We got my guy David back on here talking some Cowboys Rams, and unfortunately the Cowboys fell to the Rams 13-12, but we saw some positives from a bunch of different players. Four interceptions for the Cowboys, could have been five if not for a penalty. David, what stuck out to you most about that game, and is there any MVP that you would say for the Cowboys?
I think what stuck out to me most about the game would probably be that I'm still a little bit worried about the Cowboys' run defense. And of course, I know that some of the Rams kept some of their better players still in there. Cowboys are rotating theirs out, but yeah, just seeing them get gashed occasionally did send like a little shiver up my spine. Like, oh no, here we go again. But I do think that a big talking point about this game was going to see how Trey Lance performed, and I don't think he did terrible. I don't think that he went out there and played really, really well. I think that he went out there and played like a guy who hasn't seen live action in a very, very long time, and maybe didn't trust his eyes at some point. You know what I mean? But didn't make any big mistakes. And if you recall before the game, that's what I was hoping. Just don't make any big mistakes. Keep the Cowboys in the game, and hope you have an opportunity to win it at the end. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but I'm still satisfied with what I saw from him.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that overall, if I had to name an MVP for this game, I feel like it would be Marquise Bell. He made quite a few good plays. He had the interception. Of course, it was an easy interception that he made. But overall, I just felt like he was playing that safety role really well, moving back from, prior playing the linebacker position last year. And I'm excited to see that guy on the field more. Hopefully you can get him on there. I know you obviously have Hooker and Dono, but that guy deserves more playing time. Same with Wanya Thomas to an extent. You've got some really good safeties. And then you throw in Julius Wood, who had a nice interception also. So you've got a good safety group finally in Dallas here, and there's a lot of years past that you haven't been able to say that. So excited about this secondary as a whole, including that safety group is a big part of that.
Yeah, I think that Wood may have had the best interception, in my opinion. He saw the receiver cut in front of him. He trusted his instinct. He fired. It wasn't like, oh, this is a preseason game. I'm fighting for a position. I can't pull the trigger. It was, this is football. I've been doing this my whole life. I'm going to pull the trigger, and I'm going to go make a play. And I thought that was very, very interesting. And it was exciting to see. I do think that you did mention that Bell's interception was somewhat of an easy interception. But being a DB myself, back in my days, I wasn't very good, so don't look at my stats. But the reason why people become defensive backs is because they can't catch. And you got to catch it when the opportunity presents itself. So you got to capitalize. And I think that our defense did a really, really good job at that tonight.
Yeah. I want to pull up
moving well now. He's skinny.
These plays by Trey Lance right here, because this was his best drive of the game right here. He had some really nice throws. Of course, they were high still, but this was the highlight reel for him throughout the game. Harmon made some really nice grabs going up, climbing the ladder to get a few of these balls.
Twice.
And then he gets the nice yards after catch after right here. I liked what I saw from Trey. He didn't hesitate. He drops, he sees it, and he rifles it in there. I think that those are the type of plays that makes you have that positive feeling about what he can be. But at the end of the day, he has been sailing these balls a little high. And kind of what you were mentioned a little bit earlier before we even went live was he could have very well had himself a Stinson Bennett type game just because of these high sailing balls. And let me bring up some of the comments. My guy Ruben in here says, "What's up, fellas?" Ruben,
What's up,
if
Ruben?
you're not already, go ahead on jump over to the YouTube side and give me a like on the video if you can. The guy Kai001, Stinson having a better game than Lance despite having the 4 interceptions is funny. I wouldn't say a better game, but his heights were definitely higher. I think that game-winning drive was pretty well, of course, aided by the penalty, but he slingshotted that in, kind of sidearmed that touchdown throw. That was pretty wicked, and he had some really nice throws overall, but man, he did not see the middle of the field, those lurking linebackers, those lurking safeties at all, and that got him in big trouble.
Yeah, and if I could touch on that, that's exactly what I was talking about that I didn't want Lance to do. Like if he went out there and he threw an interception or whatever, a defensive back made a good play, that's one thing. But if he went out there and you could tell he wasn't reading the defense right, he was seeing ghosts out there, he was making these Stinson Bennett type plays, then
Hmm.
that is what would have really worried me. Now, of course, he did have the high balls, and we'll touch on those as we go forward. Hopefully, he cleans that up. But I'm glad he was at least seeing the field better than Bennett was.
Yeah, and touching on these two comments by Kai and Ruben, defense is definitely looking and playing faster. I think that the linebackers, for all accounts of what I was seeing in my notes, they played decisive and quickly, closing in on the run gaps and trusting what their eyes saw in front of them. That is a huge difference from last year, where Damone Clark was really stuck in the mud, and when he did go and trust his eyes, it was typically the wrong read. So good call by Kai and Ruben right there. Um, Jumping to Jeff, he said that defense looked or decent, 4 interceptions. Yeah, for the crowd that said that Zimmer wouldn't get them as many turnovers and the defense wouldn't be the same without Dan Quinn. This is not the game that shows that. They had a really good game as far as the secondary goes. Obviously, Eric Scott had some troubles and sometimes in coverage. Kalen Carson, to an extent, had some troubles in coverage as well, but overall, I liked what I saw, especially from that early group with those safeties and corners. Gotta finish. Yeah, exactly. This was the Dallas Aubreys, not even the Cowboys. All the points were scored by Brandon Aubrey tonight. You just got to get it in. You got to punch it in the end zone. Now, with that being said, I think the 4th and 1, if you really wanted to, you could have scored there. I think that they were just trying to see how Trey Lance can really throw that fade ball, that corner fade, and obviously it was not a good throw. He seriously lacks touch, and that's what he's lacking the most in his game right now.
And
Jumping over to Freddie Q, you think it's a mechanical issue for Trey Lance still, or lack of snaps? I'll let you jump in on that question first, Dave.
Well, I want to touch really quick on that 4th and 1. I do agree that they did want to see that corner route, but at the same time, like I think for a guy who hasn't played live action football in a very very long time, I think if you get him down there and you get him on 4th and 1, 4th and goal, and you allow him to have a touchdown drive, I think that does monumental. Like it's monumental for his confidence to do that. So I
Yeah,
really do
yeah,
wish that they would have allowed him to make that touchdown. He would have jogged off the field feeling good. I got this. I'm back. Versus having him in that good drive with we could have scored, but I messed it up. You know what I mean? But yeah, as far as mechanical issues or lack of snaps, I think it could be a combination of both. I think that whenever you have rust, there's going to be a little bit of mechanical issues, but I definitely think that it's going to be a lack of snaps. I mean, like I said, dude hasn't played live football in a very very long time. He's been basically at a quarterback camp with the Dallas Cowboys for the last season, and then he had one off season to kind of and one training camp to kind of do what he does. So I think that as he plays more, I was hoping that he had the whole game. Of course, Cooper Rush did go in there, but as he plays more, things are going to kind of start to slow down for him again. He's going to trust his eyes a little bit more, and I think that he may surprise people and play pretty well going forward.
yeah. I agree. I think that to go into that question a little bit about the mechanics and or lack of snaps, I truthfully think it's more of the nerves. I think that he has all right mechanics. I don't see why he should be sailing the balls. He has a live arm, can make all of the throws on the field, can throw far hash, all that stuff. He really needs to trust himself more and don't let the nerves get a hold of him because. And we've seen that with Dak a little bit. Nerves, Dak starts throwing high a little bit too. So we will see as far as that goes. But I think it's his first actual game in this offense. We got to remember that. But I'm surprised how much better Cooper Rush looked in that opening drive compared to Trey Lance overall. I think that it was night and day as far as his command of the offense, his understanding of how the defense is lining up, and his just his arm just looking like he knew what his arm could do, not overthrowing receivers. We saw a little bit too much of that from Trey Lance. It's just he had probably 2 touchdowns he should have had, but he just overthrew the receivers. So taking a look at this 4th interception by uh, I think it was Mogerman. Let me see. Um,
Yeah, the long hair I think doesn't help with reading the
Brock
name too.
Brock. I can't even think of his name. Brock Mogensen. Okay, sorry. Brock Mogensen comes in here. Like I said, Stinson just does not see that middle linebacker. He jumps that ball and takes it back for a nice return. Um, Out of all three of these interceptions, which one, or four interceptions, sorry, which one did you stuck out the most to you? I think that you mentioned the Wood one.
Yeah, that one definitely stuck out to me the most. I mean, like I said, he was playing single high safety is what I believe he was playing. Single high, he sees the wide receiver cut in front of his eyes. He trusts his instincts. He drops down. He drives on the ball and he makes the interception. You could tell guys who like have played football forever and are out there and they're like, I'm just playing football still. I'm a baller. This is what I do. I've always done it. I'm just out here playing football. And the guys who are out there like, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to pull the trigger too much because what if it's double move? I don't want to trust myself and trust my film study and trust my coaching because what if I mess up? And I think that Wood interception was a good example of just trusting yourself, understanding what you're supposed to see, and pulling the trigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I accidentally pressed back on the wrong button. That's why I pieced out of the
No
chat
worries.
or the video. Um, yeah, KY or KHY001. So Kai says Racy McMath had those bad drops on that Trey Lance drive. Absolutely. Um, my guy Ruben, Trey has an issue with throwing the receiver open rather than waiting for the receiver to be open and making it up with the power and speed. Yeah, that's the big thing. He just doesn't trust it before he sees it actually come to fruition. Um, yeah, throw to Jalen Brooks from Rush was nice. Yeah, that one was it was reminiscent of last year's preseason to the big one to Jalen Tolbert. So, yeah, really, really impressed with what I saw from that first drive out of the Cowboys. Obviously, you got to punch it in there, but a really, really good drive. Let's talk about this Julius Woods interception right here. As you mentioned, you could just see how this was the best interception of the game because he read the quarterback's eyes, came up from the deep safety slot to jump that route and get over the wide receiver right there and just make a great grab. Also gets a nice little couple more yards. Yeah, I think that it's more of a Al Harris, um, you know, th- ordeal than it really was Dan Quinn for me. Um, talk about that and the carryover from Al Harris and him being retained by the Cowboys.
Yeah, and not to mention, I mean, not only do you have Al Harris as the leader of these DBs, but you still have Diggs, who's a ball hawk, as we know. You still have Bland, who's a ball hawk, as you know. I mean, you got these guys who are like ball, 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 ball. They think ball, they think ball. And there's a difference between, in my opinion, obviously it doesn't show on the stat sheet, but there's a difference between turnovers and takeaways. And this defense, I mean, prides themselves on takeaways, but Woods' interception is a perfect example of what a takeaway is. He didn't just take advantage of an opportunity that came to him like Bell did, which is still great, but he took the ball away. He saw the opportunity, he went, and he captured it. So I thought that's it's something that you really really want to see out of your safeties or your DBs in
Yep.
general.
David, whenever you're not talking, hit mute just so it's a little bit better for the audience. Um, one thing that I did like about Trey Lance, if there was one really super positive thing about his game, is he felt pressure pretty well inside of the pocket. And he played according to that. And so here it is on the 4th and 3. He feels that pressure coming down on him. He gets out of there, stays strong, which is reminiscent of Dak Prescott a little bit. Gets the gain, has a little bit more of legs than Dak Prescott, and so he actually is able to beat the outside defender right here and pick up the 4th down. Um, I think this was my biggest positive from Trey Lance, but was there anything else that stood out more from his play today, or you kind of just echoing my sentiments?
I am going to echo it, but I'm also going to point out that I don't feel like the protection was very good for Trey tonight. So, I mean, he did have, like we did already mention, he did sail some balls, but I do feel like Bennett threw a bunch of picks where I thought he had a pretty solid pocket, whereas Trey was out there kind of like worrying about the pocket kind of collapsing on him and still trying to deliver the ball. And then, like it was already pointed out by who was it, KHY, that
Hmm.
I'm sorry, yeah, no, I'm sorry, not KHY, yeah, it was KHY, about some of the balls that he did, deliver they were dropped. You know what I mean? So I do think that he did a good job of kind of navigating the pocket, reading what reading the defense, taking what the defense gives you. When you don't have anything, keep your eyes downfield as you're scrambling, and if you still don't have anything, tuck it and get what you can. You know what I mean? Live
Yeah.
to fight another day, and that's something that like you should be excited to see from a guy who hasn't played a lot of football in a very long time. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I will say, out of everybody that played today on the offensive side, Tyler Guyton was my main MVP for the game. I thought that coming off of the sickness, not having as much practice time as he probably would have liked going into this preseason game, he was a bully. He got people off of the ball in run offense and run blocking, and he was also extremely good whenever he was asked to pass pro one-on-one on the island out there at left tackle. Um, in this play, especially, it's a run play. You can see how much push he actually gets, sticks. You can see how much his arm length makes a difference against these defenders as well. Just sticks the defense, drives it with his legs, and gets nice push right there. Were you impressed by Tyler Guyton? How do you feel about him?
I definitely was impressed by him. I'm super excited that he was able to go after being ill. It was reported by Kyle Humans on the sideline. I don't know which broadcast you watched, but on the sideline he mentioned that he was actually supposed to play 2 quarters, but with the injury to Chuma, they ended up pulling him after I think it was one drive. So I am excited to see what he could have brought. I mean, 2 quarters versus one drive is going to be a big difference in sample size. But as far as what he had, what he showed, I mean, he had power, he had speed, he had good footwork. He was an anchor. He kind of made sure that, Lance had time to get the ball out. And yeah, it's something that you really want to see from a guy that you drafted so high.
Absolutely. And here is another prime example of how much of a bully he was in the run game. Knocks him over, almost knocks over Cropper. And he looks like he's enjoying playing football right now. And he's out there just to kick butt and take names, man. So really fun to see that. Let me take this down for just a second. I'm gonna drop a link to my buddy, see if he wants to hop in.
And before we get too far, I do want to mention that KHY did say that he did have a that. I'm assuming that he's talking about Trey Lance had a good command of the offense. No delay of games, no false starts or anything that he could remember. None that I can remember as well. So I think that's something very notable as well. I mean, he's going out there again. I'll say it 1,000 times. He hasn't had live football in a very, very long time, but he was out there. Maybe he was nervous, maybe he wasn't, but he did a good job of masking that and taking command of the offense.
Yeah. He also has another question about BB. I did have one clip of BB real quick. I'll pull it up. Um, yeah, I think that BB sometimes can get a little bit lost. You can see him right here. He should have stuck this block. I believe that's BB right here. Oh, no, that isn't. This is BB. Oh, so maybe not. Um, regardless,
I think he may have clicked out again, but I didn't notice anything. See, with offensive linemen, of course, it's hard for us to watch all the offensive linemen. It's hard for us to see that,
I keep
but
on hitting the back. My bad.
it's okay. But it's all good. I figured, but it's hard for us to watch every single thing that the offensive line does. Of course, it's very very packed, and if without going back and watching the film, it's going to be a little bit difficult. But one thing that you can say is that you didn't notice anything bad out of him. Notice whenever you don't notice anything bad out of an offensive lineman, then they probably did their job. So I think it's safe to say that he did a decent job. Of course, you're gonna have to rewatch the game or watch the film to tell if he had any like micro issues.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't have any like crazy um blocks that I thought, oh wow, like that's Cooper BB, that's what we got him for. Falcon, if you want to jump in the actual the stream, I sent you a link if you're interested. Um, but anyways, back to BB. He didn't pop off like, oh man, BB has arrived. He had some good snaps at center. He had some times where I was like, I wish he would have got some more push. I wish he would have done this, that. But man, I think overall, um, from the rookies that I really honed in on, which was Guyton, Nealon, BB, Carson. I thought those guys were really good. Well, maybe BB's more in the actual like okay territory with Liu Fao, and then Flournoy I thought was bad overall. Um,
I was a
that's
little
kind of what I
bit
thought.
not, I wouldn't say discouraged in what I saw from Carson because I'm not, but I was a little bit like I guess what I thought might happen did happen. I mean, there were some times where I felt like he got caught looking in the backfield. If unless I just read the defense wrong, but it seemed like he was having trouble keeping either his zone eyes or his man eyes. Where if he was a man-to-man coverage and he watches the play action, he's looking back at the quarterback. Which if you're in the zone defense, then that's okay. You could look back at the quarterback and keep the wide receiver in your peripherals. When you're in man-to-man offense, you got to keep your eyes on the wide receiver's hips. And I feel like maybe he had some issues with that, and he got hit on some rollouts and stuff like that. But that's stuff that they're going to watch film, they're going to correct going forward. Not to mention that you know those are criticisms and things that we've also said about Diggs at times, and we've also said about Bland at times, or they
Hmm.
kind of like cheat in, and that's why they're so great. So I mean, if he's learning from those guys, he's learning from Al Harris, and he may have issues with some of these things at sometimes, but if it pays off with a good interception or big plays somewhere down the line, then it's definitely going to be worth it.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever I scouted Carson during his time at college, I thought that he played better with the ball in front of him and understanding how to really hone in on what the quarterback is doing. Whenever he had the back to the ball, that's where he kind of got in trouble a little bit. So I'm not surprised that he had a little bit of struggles there, but I did see um, a lot of general good from him overall. So, anyways, we got Falcon in here. I will pop him up and then let me take down
Oh, you
this
don't have to,
banner.
man. I don't have my camera connected right now, so you can just have you two up. I'm good with that. What's
Oh,
up,
you're
guys?
good, man. Just talk. Just talk. What were your thoughts about the game, and did anybody stand out to you in general?
Yeah, not just first year guys, but definitely Nealon did to me.
Hmm.
I liked Overshone. I was so glad that he had that burst because I was kind of concerned with that coming off the injury there.
Yeah.
I heard you. I think I just heard you say Liafo you weren't too impressed with, but I think those two combined, man, we finally got linebackers. I'm actually happy about
It's not
this.
that I wasn't impressed with him. I thought that he had some good keys and understood his assignments and whatnot. I did see him twice
Mm,
on run plays. He took the wrong gap and
yeah,
overextended, expecting it to be bounced outside, and he guessed on that a little bit. But that's fine. I mean, if that's what he was trained to do, like, okay, let Kendricks be the middle guy and fill that gap. You just make sure that no runs get bounced outside. That's completely
right.
fine. But I just thought that he overextended a little bit on that. Twice that I saw on my notes. Other than that, he was decent in coverage. Obviously, he's not carrying a wide receiver across the field, but whenever he was asked to kind of spy that the running back out of the backfield on those flats and little stabs, I thought he was fine. So he just didn't pop off to me really.
Yeah, I'm gonna be called a Michigan homer, but Mozzie, like there was one play where I
Yeah.
saw him get stood up in the middle, but he actually did his job, man. Like he was absorbing the double plays, like everything in there. So I'm happy to see us using him the way that he was used in college. So that was a big bonus too. And I fully know and understand and admit that this was later on in the game. So we're talking about second and third string guys, obviously, that they were up against. But Muhammad, not having played for a year, and that dude's motor, like, let's be real, he was nuts. He was back there applying pressure on every down. So I think he's going to be a good pickup for us. That's sneaky too.
I wanted to bring
The
up this Mozzie play because this was one
Oh
of the
yeah, he
ones that
broke up the screen. Yeah, this was perfect.
exactly he read it and he trusted what he saw, and we
Yeah,
did not see that from last year from him. So I really liked this play from him, and I think this was the first drive actually, or maybe second.
I think it was a second. Maybe I'm wrong. No, it was the first because it's scoreless. You can see.
Yep, yep.
So
I
yeah,
think I think my biggest issue with Mozzie tonight wasn't had nothing to do with his gameplay. It was actually that I didn't see enough of his gameplay. Like, I mean, I know that we're high on Mozzie now and that we're excited that he gained all this weight, he gained his strength back and stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't think, and I know you think you just mentioned Falcon that you're a Michigan man, but I don't think that he earned the right to just have one or two drives. I think that he really needed to go out there and show us that, yeah, you could do it for a couple drives, but can you do it all game long? Can you do it for a
yeah.
half? Can you do it when you're tired? You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I do think that he flashed. I think he looked really, really good. So I'm excited to see what he could do going forward, but just want to see a little bit more playing time.
Yeah, and that I don't think that's a bad take, honestly. I think that's logical because we're talking about I don't know. I do fight with that a little bit too because I get what you're saying there and I don't disagree with it. But I also remember last year everyone being like, yo, we drafted a defensive tackle. Remember their first year, they're usually not going to pop off. It takes them a year to develop. Then all of a sudden, we're a year later down the road and people are like, he's a bust. We should get rid of what
Hmm.
just happened here? Like, wait a minute. What were you just saying last year about this? But I think first preseason game, they're just kind of getting to see what they've got. and seeing short bursts with that. And next game, I think we're going to see more against Las Vegas, and then the last game we're going to see even more. I would hope,
A
but
little ramp
I don't
up,
know.
yeah.
We also don't want them to get hurt. Like that's the number one goal: get out of preseason without injuries, right?
I
Yeah,
did want to answer Ruben's question real quick about Nealon. First drive, I thought that he was excellent. He played his run fits really well. He just understood his assignment, filled in that D Law role. You can see that he has a little bit more pass rush savvy than previously touted out of the draft, and I really like that point of his game. I think that he's going to give you more moving forward, and especially with the loss of Sam Williams, I think that he's good for a few sacks. Obviously, I don't think he's a double digit guy, but I'm excited for his kind of trajectory for this rookie season. Go ahead, David.
No, just I was gonna mention that Nealon did do a really good job. I do remember the Bennett break and contain and running for a first down. I think it was fourth down, 4th and 4, maybe 4th and something on the first drive.
Yeah, it's fourth and like one or
And
something.
yeah, and it wasn't Nealon. I actually thought it was initially, but it was actually Fehoko, who you were talking
Mm-hmm.
about. You need to see more out of, and he didn't keep his
Yeah.
contained. Quarterback rolls out and he gets that first down. I mean, that's it's really tough for the defense to go out there and get them in 4th down and hope that you can get a stop, and then they go through and convert a 4th down, and now you got to go out there and try to do it again. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that Feihoku definitely needs to prove himself in these next games coming up. I think that that's very evident moving forward for him, and I don't think that it bodes completely well for the other who's his name, Golston, because he has been a guy that's kicked into the 3 tech position in past, but they seem like they're trying to try him more out as an edge because of the loss of Sam Williams. I don't know. I don't want to get in this situation where it's like, oh, we have to find another 3 tech to fill in this position. I just want to see Feihoku be better, point blank. But yeah, it's a difficult problem because that's one guy that hasn't popped off during camp, and he definitely didn't pop off today in today's game. And that's kind of what Kai is saying right here.
As you're showing these plays here, I made the comment earlier when I was watching the game that Lance's passes, they seemed a little bit high, but they weren't not accurate, if that makes sense. But some of these, like that one specifically, they just showed right there, that was perfect. Because where else is he going to put that ball? He puts it out a little bit in front of the receiver. You got a chance for that cornerback to make a break on that ball. So that's a little bit of a risk. And then this one here, he had a dude underneath it, so he had to throw it high. So it's a double-edged blade to me. Like he has accuracy to him. He just needs to be better in his decision making and be faster in it, I feel like.
Yeah.
And he'll be a solid number 2 for us.
And a lot of the things that people are saying about Trey Lance's performance tonight, he looked a little bit nervous. He was throwing it a little bit too high. I think somebody, I can't remember who, mentioned he wasn't really throwing his receivers open. He was waiting until they got open and then threw it. Those are all criticisms that I'm old enough to remember that people had about Dak. People would always say that Dak threw a little bit too high. Dak couldn't throw his receivers open. He had to wait until they got open, that he would get rattled. So, I mean, like I said, if there's anything that I feel about Trey Lance after this game, it's encouragement. I think that he can build off of this and go back, watch the film, clean up some of the things, trust himself a little bit more, and hopefully he'll do a lot better, next week.
Yeah, I had Trey Lance at 180 yards, 1 on the ground and 1 through the air as my projection for him during this game. He met the 180 yards. However, he didn't have the 1 rushing or passing. He probably could have had 1 rushing, of course. But yeah, I think that this is a building block game for him. I don't see this being negative on his, his chart and his trajectory of possibly getting QB2 on this team. But he definitely needs to make this a building block game, and don't let the next preseason game, I think it's the Raiders. Don't let that game be worse than this one. You've got to build off of this, and you really have to show that you're willing to stand in the pocket and just rip some throws, because that's what it takes in this West Coast offense from Mike McCarthy, is understanding your drops, seeing it, and ripping it quickly, because these routes come open in a split second over the middle, and then they're gone because the linebacker moves into the zone. So you've got to be decisive and ready to rip it at any moment.
And to anticipate what the receiver's going to be, to your point that you made earlier, David. Like, he's not seeing that. He's not, and maybe that's just the small sample size that I've got. but he's not throwing them open. He's waiting for them to get open, like you said. Like, and that will come a time. You're 100% right with that, but I got to see it on film. Until I see it on film, Cooper's number 2. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah, and real quick, like speaking on the timing and letting it go and letting it rip. I mean that first corner route. I mean, if he doesn't. I mean, as soon as that back foot hits, he needs to just throw it. He doesn't need to pat it. He doesn't need to sit there and think about it. Just let it go, bro. Like just let it go, and hopefully with time he'll do that.
Yeah, my guy Ruben brings up a nice comment here. I feel like Cropper is Cook's 2.0. The guy has something we need to unlock. Brooks needs to be elevated. He reminds me of Patrick Creighton, but taller. I really do agree with the kind of comp between Cropper and Cooks because those are two guys that have sticky hands and they can work over the middle. They have some nice yards after the catch ability. Obviously, Cropper probably doesn't have the same amount of speed that Cooks once had. But I kind of see that comparison, especially in this Cowboys offense. Brooks needs to be elevated. Reminds me of Patrick Creighton. I did before training camp, before anything, I was on the record to say that Brooks could possibly be your wide receiver 3 to 4 on this roster simply because he gives you something the other wide receivers don't, which is a big body red zone threat. And that brings back those fades in the corner of the end zone that we saw so often with Des Bryant in years past. So I don't necessarily see the Patrick Clayton comp, but I do think that he has something to give this team, and he seems like he's building a nice, you know, relationship with Dak as well, with him working in the yard with him.
I
And maybe
think Brooks is really the only 50-50 guy on the team, isn't he? Well, maybe Ferg. I would possibly put Ferg up there.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Those guys, I'm expecting some really good red zone work in the regular season as long as Brooks makes the roster.
And maybe it's just me, and it could be because CD's, obviously, holding out. But I didn't really like. Sorry about my baby. I didn't really like that Jalen Tolbert didn't go. I mean, I know that he's been doing good and he's been flashing, but again, I mean, there's camp guys and then there's game guys, and I wanted to see what he could do in the game when you're number one, when all eyes are on you, when you're the first read on some of these plays. I wanted to see what he had to bring, and I don't know why he didn't.
Yeah. Do you think that is more about the possibility of the Joneses understanding that CD might not be here week 1, or is that
I
more
hope
about
not.
you think that
oh
wide
god, I
receiver
hate that
3
if
is
that's the case.
already locked up with
You
Tolbert?
know, I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to say that, but I was thinking it. I mean, it could be them being like, we got to preserve this guy's health because what if CD doesn't show?
Yeah.
And I really don't want to create that narrative and put that out there, but it could be it. It could be that the Joneses are like, you know what, just in case CD doesn't show up, just in case we can't lock up a deal. Let's keep this Jalen guy, healthy because we may need him, when the games really matter.
Yeah, and another thing to point out is Dak went on record to the media and basically told the media Jalen Tolbert is going to have a season like Cedric Wilson had in past, where he popped off and he was our wide receiver 3 and nobody really expected it. That's how much work he's putting in with Dak each and every single offseason. He actually said that Jalen Tolbert has been at his house more than any receiver, including CD Lamb, including Ferguson, including Cooks, this offseason. So I think that is the understanding of from the front office. Okay, this guy has had his relationship being built up with Dak. He has proven himself time and time again at camp, being our wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 there at camp, and has shown a lot of different flashes. I think it's safe to say we don't need to see him in the preseason game and risk injury, especially when we're not even close on the CD Lamb contract, because that was said to be done by a source on a couple different sources on Twitter a week ago, and it still hasn't dropped. So we'll see what happens with the CD Lamb contract. Unfortunately, it hasn't got done, but if it doesn't go, if this carries over into the regular season, it is incredibly critical to have at least Tolbert and Cooks both healthy week 1 against the Cleveland Browns, who have a stout defense. Man, you need all of your guys against that defense.
And talking about the wide receiver when it comes to like the pecking order there, I mean, yeah, we want to see more from Tolbert, but honestly, if you look at the tape last year, he made the plays when they were there for him. He absolutely did. He just didn't get a whole lot of opportunities because Gallup was still there, and I mean, they paid him, so it was like, what are we doing? We got to get this guy on the field. We paid him. Let's keep using this. But he definitely took advantage of his opportunities. And to me, the pecking order for the receivers is CD1, Ferg, I don't care, tight end or not. Ferg is their number 2 target. And then we have a 3A and 3B to me. You have Tolbert and Cooks there. That's the way that
Yeah.
I look at it.
Yeah. My wife is saying dinner's almost ready, so I'm gonna roll for the until 40 minutes. We're at 35, 37 right now, so roll a little bit longer. Um, Closing thoughts on this preseason game. Obviously, we come up a little bit short. Stinson Bennett pulls that out of his rear end. 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions to come back on the Cowboys to win at 13-12. Closing statements from both of you guys. Go ahead.
I'll go first. Closing statements for me is going to be, what's up, Zimmer? Thank you for coming through. We like your defense. It's going good. And I'm glad that a lot of guys still have that takeaway mentality. That looked really good. I mean, I'd like to see a little bit more from Mozzie. As far as playing time, I'd like to see the Dallas Cowboys defense stop the run a little bit better. But aside from that, I thought the defense played really, really well. As far as the offense goes, Trey Lance, hey, build on this. Build on this. Go back, watch the film, notice that you should have trusted yourself here, should trust yourself there, and then maybe come back and have a better game next week. So I'm encouraged by what I saw. I'm excited about it, and man, I can't wait till I get to see more.
Absolutely, Falcon.
Yeah, I would expand that to everybody, right? Like there was a lot of good that we saw out of the team. Yeah, there was some bad there, but I think they got some diamonds in the rough here that like Nealand, there was a lot of people. I know you had him high in your draft board for later on, but I think he's one that was going to be a sneaky good pickup. I just think everybody needs to take this and kind of build on it. And Cowboys nation as a whole needs to sit down and look at this tape and go, okay, you weren't happy with Guyton. He's him. Like we have a dude that's like 6'7" out there, 300 pounds. Like we good now. Okay. Like take a deep breath there. He's good. So
Man,
there's a lot of really good to take away from this.
I hate when the Cowboys make me look like I have no idea what I'm doing with draft profiles, but they've done it time and time again with these offensive tackles. And I think it's really, you've got to give the props to Tyler Guyton for going in there and doing the work, but also Duke Manyweather and those guys at offensive line masterminds, because his technique is really tied together from the top half to the lower half, when in college it wasn't. His hands were just bad, and he was learning a little bit at the Senior Bowl. You could tell that he was taking and being a sponge and soaking up the coaching. But overall, man, from the TCU film was not good at all, and in the Oklahoma film you could see that he had the athleticism to get out on the swing plays and get out there on the run plays and be a powerful guy, and he had length, but he just took horrible angles in the blocking game. And then the pass pro was just, it was hit and miss. He just wasn't consistent. Now you're seeing the consistency, you're seeing the trust in his technique, you're seeing the good kick steps, and the understanding that I have length on almost anybody I'm going to go against. And just that trust in that is going to go a long way for the kid. I actually think that this season is make or break based on Tyler Guyton, because you cannot have Steele playing at the level he was last year and Guyton playing similarly. You need both of those guys really securing the edges. And because I don't think that Hoffman is really a powerful center, so you're probably going to get more pressure up the middle, and that's what's truly disruptive. So if you can secure the edges and allow Dak to get outside on the run, that's where he's his best, and I think that's where you're going to see the most amount of plays being made, is Dak on his legs, rolling out, getting big gains to CD Lamb, going on those mesh concepts, and dragging all the way across the field. So excited to see this offense, and these rookies really did impress me. I think that this is night and day rookie class from this year compared to last year's. Obviously, you want to see the guys from last year continue to build and get better. We saw it with Mozzie tonight. We saw Demo have some really good plays after he tore his ACL last year in the limited time he had. Eric Scott had an interception today, and then Jalen Brooks as well had some really good plays. So those sophomores are looking to be more involved moving forward. And overall, I'm excited about this rookie class as well. So maybe losing so many pieces isn't quite as big as we had thought. And with that, I'll drop in here Albert Skies. He says, disappointed with the analysis. Appreciate the effort, though. Hey, that's fine. Completely fine. We're just fans out here hanging out and dropping our opinions. So no worries.
You
Have a good night,
Hoffman,
brother.
EJ. he was better than what we had last year, and it allowed the guards to pull on some plays, which we really weren't able to do last year. So, I mean, that is a positive for that, right? Like, if we can have that back implemented in there, like that's a win right there.
Yeah. It's not me hating on Hoffman.
No, I know.
I really wanted a powerful center, in our offensive line, and I think you get that in Cooper Beebe, but he just hasn't won the spot yet. So, I like the understanding of blocking protections and understanding of how to work with the camaraderie of your other offensive linemen next to you with Hoffman. But I really think we're missing some of the power that will get our running game popping off if we had BB in there.
And I just want to touch on Albert's comment. I appreciate the comment, man, because we're just out here, we're just fans, and we're analyzing this the way we do. But you can't tell a fan how to be a fan, and you can't tell somebody to have the perspective that you do. So I encourage you next time to give us a little bit of your perspective, because I know I'll speak for myself. I'm not always right in what I see. I mean, I see things, and I see things my way, and I could be incorrect, man. So I'd encourage you to give us your perspective, and we can talk on it. Help us out.
See, I'm going to go the exact opposite. I'm a Michigan fan and I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, so I'm perfect no matter what. Okay. No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
no,
gosh.
Nobody is perfect when it comes to this stuff, and we have a different view than other people may have. So I would just say, I guess my different take would be put down what you think should have been different then. Put down your analysis of it, type it out, and there's a discussion there, right?
Albert, I host Cowboys fan forums where I invite just regular fans onto my show, and you talk Cowboys ball. Completely willing to have you on my show, talk some ball as well. Hopefully you don't feel like we're dogging on you.
No, I don't mean
it's just it's talk at the end of the day. We don't do this for a living. We're just fans, and we're just chopping it up. Anyways, I got to go eat dinner or my wife is going to yell at me. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. If you have not already, leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll be back Tuesday night talking more preseason ball and a look ahead at the Raiders-Cowboys game next week. Peace.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Forget what you got, none of it matters until you don't work from the top. I'm talking non-stop, squad. They've been down with me for years, and none of them asking for squad. Five, out of the gutter, don't stutter, I'm taking my shots. Block, out the noise, some others, my brothers and me, we going off. Bippity pop, talking that ish, I'm